All right, grand rising, everybody. Welcome back to Sister for Sister Story Time with your girl Shia Fire. We are Today we're going to be talking about the voodoo connection to Christianity, Hebrewism, Muslimism, all the isms. Um, so let's go ahead and jump right in. Right. Don't mind my son in the background. Okay, so the subject um, is really on voodoo possession. So, as it pertains to possession and the taking over of one's body, skinwalkers, things of that nature. So, how they can take over the body and then be able to sacrifice the body or um, commit suicide of the vessel. Okay, if you follow my drift. So let's just continue. Okay, so the first thing that popped up when I was Googling, it was a movie called Voodoo Possession. So, and it's funny because my son's name is Aiden. It says Aiden travels to a Haitian insane asylum to his brother and discovers all the inmates and staff are possessed by a bloodthirsty voodoo spirit. So this is the Wikipedia um, description of Haitian voodoo. Haitian voodoo is an African diasporic religion that developed in Haiti between the. Let me turn my headphone on. Okay. Okay, so Haitian voodoo is an African diasporic religion that developed in Haiti between the 16th and 19th centuries. It arose through a process of syncretism between several traditional religions of West and Central Africa and Catholicism. There is no central authority in control of the religion, and much diversity exists among practitioners who are known as voodooists, voodoo saints, or servitors. Voodoo teaches the existence of a transcendent creator divinity, Bandai or Bandi, under whom are spirits known as Lua. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Typically deriving their names and attributes from traditional West and Central African deities, they are equated with Catholic saints. The Lua divide into different groups, the Nanshan or nations, most notably the Rada and Petwa, about whom various myths and stories are told. This theology has been labeled both monotheistic and polytheistic. In initiatory tradition, voodooists commonly venerate the Lua at an onfo or temple. run by an Unguan or Wangan priest or Manbo, the priestess. Alternatively, voodoo is also practiced within family groups or in secret societies like the Bizango. A central ritual involves practitioners drumming, singing, and dancing to encourage Olua to possess one of their members and thus communicate with them. Offerings to the Lua and to spirits of the dead include fruit, liquor, and sacrificed animals. Several forms of divination are utilized to decipher messages from the Lua. Healing rituals and the preparation of herbal remedies and talismans also play a prominent role. Voodoo developed among Afro Haitian communities and the Atlantic slave trade of the 16th to 19th centuries, aka 1619 or 1916. Its structure arose from the blending of the traditional religions of those enslaved West and Central Africans brought to the island of Hispaniola, among them Congo, Fon, and Yoruba. There, it absorbed influences from the culture of the French colonialists who controlled the colony of Saint Dominique, most notably Roman Catholicism, but also Freemasonry. Many voodooists were involved in the Haitian Revolution of 1791 to 1801, which overthrew the French colonial government, abolished slavery, and transformed Saint Dominique into the Republic of Haiti. The Catholic Church left for several decades following the revolution, allowing voodoo to become Haiti's dominant religion. In the 20th century, growing immigration spread voodoo abroad. The late 20th century saw growing links between voodoo and related traditions in West Africa and the Americas, such as Cuban Santeria and Brazilian Candomblé, while some practitioners influenced by the Negritude movement have sought to remove Catholic influences. Most Haitians practice both voodoo and Catholicism, seeing no contradiction in pursuing the two different systems simultaneously. Smaller voodooist communities exist elsewhere, especially among Haitian diasporas in Cuba and in the United States. Both in Haiti and abroad, voodoo has spread beyond its Afro Haitian origins and is practiced by individuals of various ethnicities. Having faced much criticism through its history, voodoo has been described as one of the world's most misunderstood religions, aka Mystery Babylon. Definitions and terminology. Voodoo is a religion. More specifically, scholars have characterized it as an Afro Haitian religion and as Haiti's national religion. Its main structure derives from the African traditional religions of West and Central Africa, which were brought to Haiti by enslaved Africans between the 16th and 19th centuries. Of these, the greatest influences came from the Fon and Bakongo peoples. On the island, these African religions mixed with the iconography of European derived traditions such as Catholicism and Freemasonry, taking the form of voodoo around the mid 18th century in combining varied influences. Voodoo has often been described as syncretic or syncretic, a product of creolization or alternatively as a symbiosis. As formed in Haiti, Voodoo represented a new religion, a creolized New World system, one that differs in many ways from African traditional religions. The scholar Leslie Desmangles therefore called it an African derived tradition. Ina J. Fandrich termed it a Neo African religion, and Marco Delafors called it an Afro Latin American religion. Several other African diasporic religions found in the Americas formed in a similar way, and owing to their shared origins in West African traditional religion, Voodoo has been characterized as a sister religion of Cuban Santeria and Brazilian Candomblé, with which it shares a number of beliefs and practices. Voodoo has no central institutional authority, no single leader, and no developed body of doctrine. It thus has no orthodoxy, no central liturgy, and no formal creed. Developing over the course of several centuries, it has changed over time. It displays variation at both the regional and local level, including variation between Haiti and the Haitian diaspora, as well as among different congregations. It is practiced domestically by families on their land, but also by congregations meeting communally, with the latter termed temple voodoo. In Haitian culture, religions are not generally deemed totally autonomous. Many Haitians thus practice both voodoo and Roman Catholicism, with voodooists usually regarding themselves as Roman Catholics. In Haiti, some voodooists usually regarding themselves as uh, sorry. In Haiti, some voodooists have also practiced Protestantism, Mormonism, or Freemasonry. In Cuba, they have involved themselves in Santeria, and in the United States with modern paganism. Voodoo has also absorbed elements from other contexts. In Cuba, some voodooists have adopted elements from Spiritism. Influenced by the Negritude movement, other voodooists have sought to remove Roman Catholic and other European influences from their practice of voodoo. In English, voodoo's practitioners are termed voodooists. In French and Haitian Creole, they are called voodoo-sants or voodooistan. Another term for adherents is Sevite, serviteurs, or devotees, reflecting their self-description as people who Loi, serve the Loi, the supernatural beings that play a central role in voodoo. Many words used in the religion derive from the Fon language of West Africa. This includes the word voodoo itself. First recorded in the 1658 Doctrina Christiana, the Fon word voodoo was used in the West African kingdom of Dahomey to signify a spirit or deity. In Haitian Creole, voodoo came to designate a specific style of dance and drumming. Before outsiders to the religion adopted it as a generic term for much Afro-Haitian religion. The word voodoo now encompasses a variety of Haiti's African-derived religious traditions and practices, incorporating a bundle of practices that practitioners themselves do not aggregate. Voodoo is thus a term primarily used by scholars and outsiders to the religion. Many practitioners describe their belief system with the term jinin, which especially denotes a moral philosophy and ethical code regarding how to live and to serve the spirits. Now, jinin sounds like genies or the jinn, which the Arabs worship, so we'll get into that later. Voodoo is the common spelling for the religion among scholars. In official Haitian Creole orthography and by the United States Library of Congress. Some scholars prefer the spellings Vodoun, Voudon, or Vodun, while in French the spellings Vaudou or Vaudous also appear. The spelling voodoo, Voodoo, once common, is now generally avoided by practitioners and scholars when referring to the Haitian religion. This is both to avoid confusion with Louisiana voodoo, a related but distinct tradition, and to distinguish it from the negative connotations that the term voodoo has in Western popular culture. Beliefs: the Bandai and the Lua. Voodoo is monotheistic, teaching the existence of a single supreme god. This entity is called Bandai or Bani, a name deriving from the French term bon Dieu, D-I-E-U, good God. Another term for this god, borrowed from Freemasonry, is the Grand Met, Granmet. For voodooists, Bandai is the ultimate source of power, the creator of the universe, and the maintainer of cosmic order. Haitians frequently use the phrase "si Bandai vle," if Bandai wishes, suggesting a belief that all things occur in accordance with this divinity's will. Voodooists regard Bandai as being transcendent and remote. As the god is uninvolved in human affairs, they see little point in approaching it directly. While Voodooists often equate Bandai with the Christian God, Voodoo does not incorporate belief in a powerful antagonist that opposes the supreme being, akin to the Christian notion of Satan. Voodoo has also been characterized as polytheistic. It teaches the existence of beings called the Lua, a term varyingly translated into English as spirits, gods, or geniuses. These Lua are also known as the mysteries, Anges, saints, and less invisibles, and are sometimes equated with the angels of Christian cosmology. Voodoo teaches that there are over 1,000 Lua, serving as Bandai's intermediaries. They communicate with humans through their dreams or by directly possessing them. Voodooists believe the Lua are capable of offering people help, protection, and counsel in return for ritual service. Each Lua has its own personality and is associated with specific colors, days of the week, and objects. Particular Lua are also associated with specific human family lineages. These spirits are not seen as moral exemplars for practitioners to imitate. The Lua can be either loyal or capricious in their dealings with their devotees. They are easily offended, for instance, if offered food they dislike. When angered, the Lua are believed to remove their protection from their devotees or to inflict misfortune, illness, or madness on an individual. Although there are exceptions, most Lua derive their names from the Fon and Yoruba languages and originated as deities venerated in West or Central Africa. New Lua are nevertheless added to the pantheon, with both talismans and certain humans thought capable of becoming Lua, in the latter case through their strength of personality or power. Voodooists often refer to the Lua living in the sea or in the rivers, or alternatively in Jinin, a term encompassing a generalized understanding of Africa as the ancestral land of the Haitian people. The Nanshan. The Lua divide into Nanshan, or nations. This classificatory system derives from the way in which enslaved Africans were divided into nations upon their arrival in Haiti, usually based on their African port of departure rather than their ethno-cultural identity. The term Fanmi, Fanmi, or family, is sometimes used synonymously with Nanshan, or alternatively as a subdivision of the latter category. It is often claimed that there are 17 Nanshan, of which the Rada and the Petua are the largest and most dominant. The Rada Lua are seen as being cool, the Petua Lua as hot. This means that the Rada are dos or dox, D-O-U-S or D-O-U-X, or sweet-tempered, while the Petua are Lua Cho, indicating that they can be forceful or violent and are associated with fire. Whereas the Rada are generally righteous, their Petua counterparts are more morally ambiguous and associated with issues like money. The Rada owe more to Dahomean and Yoruba influences. Their name probably comes from Arada, a city in the Dahomey Kingdom of West Africa. The Petua derived largely from Congo religion, although also exhibit Dahomean and Creolized influences. Some Lua exist Andizo or in Zo U, Eaux, or O's, whatever, meaning that they are in two waters and are served in both Rada and Petua rituals. Voodoo teaches that there are over 1,000 Lua, although certain ones are especially widely venerated. In Rada ceremonies, the first Lua saluted is Papa Legba, also known as just Legba. Depicted as a feeble old man wearing rags and using a crutch, Papa Legba is the protector of gates and fences and thus of the home. as well as of roads, paths, and crossroads. In Patois rites, the first Lua invoked is usually Met Kalfu. The second Lua usually greeted are the Marasa, or sacred twins. In Voodoo, every Nanshan has its own Marasa, reflecting a belief that twins have special powers. Another important Lua is Agwe, or Agua, also known as Agua Taroyo, who is associated with aquatic life and is the protector of ships and fishermen. Agua is believed to rule the sea with his consort, La Sirene. She is a mermaid and is sometimes described as Izili of the waters because she is believed to bring good luck and wealth from the sea. Also given the name Izili is Izili Frida or Urzuli Frida, the Lua of love and luxury who personifies feminine beauty and grace, and Izili Dantor, who takes the form of a peasant woman. Azaka is the Lua of crops and agriculture, usually addressed as Papa or cousin. His consort is the female Lua cousin, Kouzinn. Loco is the Lua of vegetation, and because he is seen to give healing properties to various plant species, is considered the Lua of healing too. Ogwa is a warrior Lua associated with weapons. Sagbo is a Lua associated with lightning, while his companion Bade or Bade is associated with the wind. Danbala is a serpent Lua and is associated with water, being believed to frequent rivers, springs, and marshes. He is one of the most popular deities in the pantheon. Danbala and his consort Aida, Wido, are often depicted as a pair of intertwining snakes. The Simbi are understood as the guardians of fountains and marshes. Usually seen as a Fanmi rather than a Nanshan, the Gidi are associated with the realm of the dead. The head of the family is Baron Samedi, Baron Saturday. He is associated with the phallus, the skull, and the graveyard cross, the latter used to mark out his presence in a Haitian cemetery. His consort is Grand Brigitte, or Brigitte, who has authority over cemeteries and is mother to many of the other Gidi. The Gidi regularly satirize the ruling authorities and are welcomed to rituals as they are thought to bring merriment. The Gidi's symbol is an erect penis, while the banda dance associated with them involves sexual style thrusting, and those possessed by these Lua typically make sexual innuendos. The Lua and the Saints. Most Lua are associated with specific Roman Catholic saints. These particular links rely on analogies between the respective functions of these figures. Azaka, the Lua of agriculture, is for instance associated with Saint Isidore the farmer. Similarly, because he is understood as the key to the spirit world, Papa Legba is typically associated with Saint Peter, who is traditionally depicted holding keys in Roman Catholic imagery. The Lua of love and luxury, Izili Frida, is associated with Mater or Mater Dolorosa. Danbala the serpent is often equated with Saint Patrick, who is traditionally depicted with snakes, or with Moses, whose staff turned into serpents according to the book of Exodus. The Marasa, or sacred twins, are typically equated with the saints Cosmos and Damien. Voodooists may originally have adopted the Roman Catholic saints to conceal Lua worship when the latter was illegal during the colonial period. By at least the late 20th century, many Voodooists came to express genuine devotion to the Roman Catholic saints, with the scholar Mark A. Christoph stating that most modern Voodooists genuinely see the saints as Lua as one. Reflecting Voodoo's all-inclusive and harmonizing characteristics, many Voodooists possess chromolithographic prints of the saints, While images of these Christian figures can be found on temple walls and on the drapo flags used in voodoo ritual, voodooists also often adopt and reinterpret biblical stories and theorize about the nature of Jesus of Nazareth. Catholic and voodoo identity is sufficiently intertwined that a Haitian proverb maintains that Po sebi loi, yo se po bon Catholic. You have to be a good Catholic to serve the spirits. The soul and afterlife. Voodoo holds that Bondi created humanity in its image, fashioning humans from water and clay. It teaches the existence of a soul, usually called the Nanam, Nanm, or sometimes the Esprit, which is divided in two parts. One of these is the T-Bonange, little good angel, understood as the conscience that allows an individual to engage in self-reflection and self-criticism. The other part is the Guabonange, big big good angel, and this constitutes the psyche, source of memory, intelligence, and personhood. Both parts are believed to reside within an individual's head, although the Bonange is thought capable of leaving the head and traveling while a person sleeps, or astral projection. Voodooists believe that every individual is connected to a specific loi regarded as their met tet, or the master of the head. They believe that this loi informs the individual's personality. Voodoo holds that the identity of a person's tutelary loi can be identified through divination or by consulting loi when they possess other humans. Some of the religion's priests and priestesses are deemed to have the gift of eyes, capable of seeing the identity of a person's tutelary loi. Voodoo holds that Bondi has preordained the time of everyone's death, but does not teach the existence of an afterlife realm akin to the Christian ideas of heaven and hell. Instead, a common belief is that at bodily death, the Guabananj join the Jinin, or ancestral spirits, while the Tibonanj proceeds to face judgment before Bondi. This idea of judgment is more common in urban areas, having been influenced by Roman Catholicism, while in the Haitian mountains it is more common for voodooists to believe that the Tibonange dissolves into the navel of the earth 9 days after death. The land of the Jenin is often identified as being located beneath the sea, under the earth, or above the sky. Some Voodooists believe that the Guo Bananj stays in the land of the Janin for a year and a day before being absorbed into the Gidi family. However, Voodooists usually distinguish the spirits of the dead from the Gidi proper, for the latter are Lua. Voodoo also teaches that the dead continue to participate in human affairs, with these spirits often complaining that they suffer from hunger, cold, and damp, and thus requiring sacrifices from the living. Morality, ethics, and gender roles. Voodoo ethical standards correspond to its sense of cosmological order, with a belief in the interdependence of things playing a role in voodoo approaches to ethical issues. Serving the Loa is central to voodoo, and its moral codes reflect the reciprocal relationship that practitioners have with these spirits. For voodooists, virtue is maintained by ensuring a responsible relationship with the Loa. Voodoo also promotes a belief in destiny, although individuals are still deemed to have freedom of choice. The view of destiny has been interpreted as encouraging a fatalistic outlook. And again, fatal, Fatal, is the 5 points of the Eastern Star, um, whatever you want to call it, their symbolism. So, a fatalistic outlook, something that the religion's critics, especially from Christian backgrounds, have argued has discouraged voodooists from improving their society. This has been extended into an argument that voodoo is responsible for Haiti's poverty, a view that in turn has been accused of being rooted in European colonial prejudices towards Africans. Although voodoo permeates every aspect of its adherents' lives, it offers no prescriptive code of ethics. Rather than being rule based, voodoo morality is deemed contextual to the situation, with no clear binary division between good and evil. Voodoo reflects people's everyday concerns, focusing on techniques for mitigating illness and misfortune. Doing what one needs to in order to survive is considered a high ethic. Among Voodooists, a moral person is regarded as someone who lives in tune with their character and that of their tutelary loi. In general, acts that reinforce Bandai's power are deemed good. Those that undermine it are seen as bad. The Magi or Magi, meaning the use of supernatural powers for self-serving and malevolent ends, are usually thought bad. The term is quite flexible. It is usually used to denigrate other voodooists, although some practitioners have used it as a self-descriptor in reference to Patois rites. The extended family is of importance in Haitian society, with voodoo reinforcing family ties and emphasizing respect for the elderly. Although there are accounts of male voodoo priests mistreating their female followers, in the religion, women can also lay claim to moral authority as social and spiritual leaders. Voodoo is also considered sympathetic to GAY people, with many GAY and bi individuals holding status as voodoo priests and priestesses, and some groups having largely GAY congregations. Some voodooists state that the Lua determine a person's sexual orientation. The Lua Izili Danto is sometimes regarded as a um, Lesbian, and forms of Izili are also seen as the patron of Masisi, GAY men. Practices. The anthropologist Alfred Matra described voodoo as a practical and utilitarian religion. Its practices largely revolve around interactions with the Lua and incorporate song, drumming, dance, prayer, spirit possession, and animal sacrifice. Practitioners gather together for services or services in which they commune with the Lua. Ceremonies for a particular Lua often coincide with the feast day of the Roman Catholic saint which that Lua is associated with. The mastery of ritual forms is considered imperative in voodoo. The purpose of ritual is to cough or heat things up, thus bringing about change, whether that be to remove barriers or to facilitate healing. Ritual activities are often termed travail or work. Secrecy is important in voodoo. It is an initiatory tradition operating through a system of graded induction or initiation. When an individual agrees to serve a lua, it is deemed a lifelong commitment. Voodoo has a strong oral culture, and its teachings are primarily disseminated through oral transmission, although many practitioners began to use text after they appeared in the mid 20th centuries. The terminology used in voodoo ritual is called langage, unlike in Santeria and Candomblé, which employ Yoruba as a liturgical language not understood by most practitioners. In voodoo, the liturgies are predominantly in Haitian Creole, the everyday language of most voodooists. The Ongon and Mambo. Male priests are referred to as Ongon, alternatively spelled Hongon, Houngan, or Hungan, Hungan, or a Pret, voodoo priest. Priestesses are termed Manbo, alternatively spelled Mambo, Wangan numerically dominates in rural Haiti, while there is a more equitable balance of priests and priestesses in urban areas. The Wangan and Manbo are tasked with organizing liturgies, preparing initiations, offering consultations with clients using divination, and preparing remedies for the sick. There is no priestly hierarchy, with Wangan and Manbo being largely self sufficient. In many cases, the role is hereditary. Historical evidence suggests that the role of the Wangan and Manbo intensified over the course of the 20th century. As a result, temple voodoo is now more common in rural areas of Haiti than it was in historical periods. Voodoo teaches that the Lua call an individual to become an Wanwan or Manbo, and if the latter refuses, then misfortune may befall them. A prospective Wanwan or Manbo must normally rise through the other roles in a voodoo congregation before undergoing an apprenticeship with a pre-existing Wanwan or Manbo lasting several months or years. After this apprenticeship, they undergo an initiation ceremony, the details of which are kept secret from non-initiates. Other Wanwan and Manbo do not undergo any apprenticeship, uh, Daim, no, but claim that they have gained their training directly from the Lua. Their authenticity is often challenged, and they are referred to as Hungan Makot, a term bearing some disparaging connotations. Becoming an Wanguan or Manbo is expensive, often requiring the purchase of ritual paraphernalia and land on which to build a temple. To finance this, many save up for a long time. Voodoo is believed that the Wanguan's role is modeled on the Lua Loco. In Voodoo mythology, he was the first Wanguan and his consort Aizan, the first Manbo. The Wanguan and Manbo are expected to display the power of second sight, something regarded as a gift from Bandai that can be revealed to the individual through visions or dreams. Many priests and priestesses are often attributed fantastical powers and stories told about them and may bolster their status with claims to have received revelations from the Lua, sometimes via visits to the Lua's own abode. There is often bitter competition between different Wanguan and Mambo. Their main income derives from healing the sick, supplemented with payments received for overseeing initiations and selling talismans and amulets. In many cases, Wanwan and Manbo provides an individual with both social status and material profit, although the fame and reputation of individual priests and priestesses can vary widely. Respected voodoo priests and priestesses are often literate in a society where semi-literacy and illiteracy are common. They can recite from printed text and write letters for illiterate members of their community. Owing to their prominence in a community, the Wanguan and Mambo can effectively become political leaders or otherwise exert an influence on local politics. The Wanfo, Ounfo. The Voodoo temple is called an Onfo, varyingly spelled Hanfo, Hohenfort, or Humfo. An alternative term is Gangan, although the connotations of this term vary regionally in Haiti. Most communal voodoo activities center around this umfo, forming what is called temple voodoo. The size and shape of umfos vary from basic shacks to more lavish structures, the latter being more common in Port-au-Prince. Their designs are dependent on the resources and taste of the Wanguan or Manbo running them. Each Wanfo is autonomous and often has its own unique customs. The main ceremonial room in the Wanfo is the peristyle, understood as the microcosmic representation of the cosmos. In the peristyle, brightly painted posts hold up the roof. The central post is the potometan, which is used as a pivot during ritual dances, and the pillar through which the lua enter the room during ceremonies. It is around this central post that offerings, including both VV patterns and animal sacrifices, are made. However, in the Haitian diaspora, many voodooists perform their rites in basements where no potometan are available. The peristyle typically has an earthen floor, allowing libations to the luau to drain directly into the soil. Where this is not possible, libations are poured into an enamel basin. Some peristyl include seating around the walls. Adjacent rooms in the Umfo include the K mysteries, also known as the Baji, Badji, or Sobaji. This is where stonework altars, known as pei, stand against the wall or are arranged in tiers. Also present may be a sink dedicated to the Luwa Dan Balawidu. The K Mysteries is also used to store clothing that will be worn by those possessed by the Luwa during rituals. If space is available, the Wanfo may also have a room set aside for the patron Luwa of that temple. Many Wanfos have a room known as the Djevo, in which the initiate is confined during their initiatory ceremony. Every Wanfo usually has a room or corner of a room devoted to Erzuli Freda. Some Wanfo will also have additional rooms in which the Wangwan or Manbo lives. The area around the Wanfo often contains objects dedicated to particular luwa, such as a pool of water for Dambala, a black cross for Baran Samedi, and a pince or iron bar embedded in a brazier for criminel. Sacred trees known as abris, reposors, sometimes mark the Wanfo's external boundary. Hanging from these trees can be found macount, straw sacks, strips of material, and animal skulls. Various animals, particularly birds, but also some mammal species, such as goats, are sometimes kept within the perimeter of the Wanfo for use as sacrifices. The congregation. Forming a spiritual community of practitioners, the Wanfo's congregation are known as the Petit K, children of the house. They worship under the authority of the Wangwan or Manbo, below whom is ranked the Unsai, individuals who make a lifetime commitment to serving the Lua. Members of either sex can join the Unsi, although most are female. The Unsi's duties include cleaning the peristyle, sacrificing animals, and taking part in dances at which they must be prepared to be possessed by the Lua. The Wangwan and Manbo conduct initiatory ceremonies whereby people become Unsi, oversee their training, and act as their counselor, healer, and protector. In turn, the Unsi are expected to be obedient to their Wangwan or Manbo. One of the Unsi becomes the Hunjinikan or Rini Chanterelle, the mistress of the choir. They are responsible for overseeing the liturgical singing and shaking the cha-cha rattle, which dictates the rhythm during ceremonies. They are aided by the Hunjinikan La Place, Commandant General de la Place or Quartermaster, who is charged with overseeing offerings and keeping order during the rites. Another figure is Le Confiance, the confidant, the Unsi who oversees the Onfo's administrative functions. Congregants often form a société, society soutien, or support society, through which subscriptions are paid to help maintain the Wanfo and organize the major religious feasts. Another ritual figure sometimes present in the Pret Savan or the bush priest, a man with a knowledge of Latin who is capable of administering Catholic baptisms, weddings, and the last rites, and who is willing to perform these at voodoo ceremonies. In rural areas, especially a congregation may consist of an extended family. Here, the priest will often be the patriarch of that family. Families, particularly in rural areas, often believe that through their Zanzet, or their ancestors. They are tied to a premier Met Bitasyan, the original founder. Their descent from this figure is seen as giving them their inheritance both of the land and of familial spirits. In other examples, particularly in urban areas, an unfu can act as an initiatory family. A priest becomes the papa or father, while the priestess becomes the manman or mother. To the initiate becomes their initiator's petit or their spiritual child. Those who share an initiator refer to themselves as brother and sister. Individuals may join a particular onfo because it exists in their locality or because their family are already members. Alternatively, it may be that the Wanfo places particular focus on a Lua whom they are devoted to, or that they are impressed by the Wanguan or Manbo who runs the Wanfo in question, perhaps having been treated by them. Initiation. Voodoo is hierarchical and includes a series of initiations. There are typically 4 levels of initiation, the fourth of which makes someone a Wanguan or Manbo. There is much variation in what these initiation, the fourth of which makes the Wanguan or Manbo, uh, what the ceremonies entail, and the details are kept secret. Each initiatory stage is associated with a state of mind called kanasan or connaissance or knowledge. Successive initiations are required to move through the various connaissans, and it is these connaissans that priestly power is believed to reside. Initiation will often be preceded by bathing and special preparations. Mhm. The first part of the initiation rite is known as the Kuch Un Hunyo and is marked by salutations and offerings to the Lua. It begins with the Shire Ayazan, a ceremony in which palm leaves are frayed and then worn by the initiate. Sometimes the Batji or Batter Guer, the beating war, is performed instead, designed to beat away the old. During the rite, the initiate comes to be regarded as the child of a particular Lua, their Metet. This is followed by a period of seclusion within the Jevo known as the Kush, a deliberately uncomfortable experience. It involves the initiate sleeping on a mat on the floor, often with a stone for a pillow. Similar to, what is that, Jacob? I think. They wear a white tunic and a specific salt-free diet is followed. It includes a lavtet, a head washing, to prepare the initiate for having the lua enter and reside in their head. Voodoo is believed that one of the 2 parts of the human soul, the gua bonange, is removed from the initiate's head, thus making space for the lua to enter and reside there. The initiation ceremony requires the preparation of pot tets or head pots, usually white porcelain cups with a lid in which a range of items are placed, including hair, food, herbs, and oils. These are regarded as a home for the spirits. What did brother say in his song? He said, Moab carries a bucket. I'll get back to that later. After the period of seclusion in the Jebo, the new initiate is brought out and presented to the congregation. They are now referred to as Onsi Tet. When the new initiate is presented to the rest of the community, they carry their pot tet on their head before placing it on the altar. The final stage of the process involves the initiate being an Asan rattle. The initiation process is seen to have ended when the new initiate is first possessed by a Lua. Initiation is seen as creating a bond between a devotee and their tutelary Lua, and the former will often take on a new name that alludes to the name of this Lua. Finally, after the Kush, the new initiate may be expected to visit a Catholic church. Shrines and altars. The creation of sacred works is important in Voodoo. Votive objects used in Haiti are typically made from industrial materials, including iron, plastic, sequins, china, tinsel, and plaster. An altar, or pay, will often contain images, typically lithographs of Roman Catholic saints. Since developing in the mid 19th century, chromolithography has also had an impact on Voodoo imagery, facilitating the widespread availability of images of the Roman Catholic saints who are equated with the Loa. Various Voodooists have made use of varied available materials in constructing their shrines. Constantino encountered a shrine in Port-au-Prince. It is common for Voodooists to include human skulls on their altar for the deity. In Onfos, where both Rada and Petois deities are worshipped, their altars are kept separate. Various spaces other than the temple are used for Voodoo ritual. Cemeteries are seen as places where spirits reside, making them suitable for certain rituals, especially to approach the spirits of the dead. In rural Haiti, cemeteries are often family owned and play a key role in family rituals. Crossroads are also ritual locations selected as they are believed to be points of access to the spirit world. Other spaces used for Voodoo rituals include Christian churches, rivers, the sea, fields, and markets. Certain trees are regarded as having spirits resident in them and are used as natural altars. Different species of tree are associated with different lua. OU, for example, is linked with mango trees, and Dambala with bougainvillea or bougainvillea. Selected trees in Haiti have had metal items affixed to them, serving as shrines to Ogu, who is associated with both iron and the roads. I saw a lot of that in Atlanta with pieces of, what is it, the dog chains nailed to trees. Spaces for ritual also appear in the homes of many Voodooists, namely as a home altar called a wagatwa. These may vary from complex altars to more simple variants, including only images of saints alongside candles and a rosary. Many practitioners will also have an altar devoted to their ancestors in their home, to which they direct offerings. Drawings known as veve are sketched onto the floor on the peristyle using cornmeal, ash, coffee grounds, or powdered eggshells. These are central to Voodoo ritual, usually arranged symmetrically around the potoman. These designs sometimes incorporate letters. Their purpose is to summon Lua. Inside the peristyle, practitioners unfurl ceremonial flags known as drapo, or flags, at the start of a ceremony, often made of silk or velvet and decorated with shiny objects such as sequins. They drapo often feature either the veve of specific lua they are dedicated to or depictions of the associated Roman Catholic saint. These drapo are understood as points of entry through which the lua can enter the peristyle. A baptism or baptism is a ritual used to make an object a vessel for the lua. Objects consecrated for ritual use are believed to contain a spiritual essence or power called namen. The asan is a sacred rattle used in summoning the lua, especially for Rada rites. It consists of an empty, dried gourd covered in beads and snake vertebrae. Prior to being used in ritual, it requires consecration. It is a symbol of the priesthood, assuming the duties of a manbo or wangwan is referred to as taking the asan. For patois rites, a different rattle, the cha-cha, is favored. Another type of sacred object are the thunderstones, often prehistoric axe heads, which are associated with specific lua and kept in oil to preserve their power. Offerings and animal sacrifice. Feeding the lua is Of great importance with offering rites often termed manger loi or feeding the loi. Offering food and drink to the loi is voodoo's most common ritual conducted both communally and in the home. The choice of food and drink offered varies depending on the luau in question, with different luau believed to favor certain foodstuffs and beverages. Danbala, for instance, requires white foods, especially eggs, while Legba's offerings, whether meat, tubers, or vegetables, need to be grilled on a fire. The Luwa of the Ogu and Nago nations prefer raw rum or clarin, while the Luwa Ayazan avoids alcohol. Certain foods are also offered in the belief that they are intrinsically virtuous, such as grilled maize, peanuts, and cassava. A mange sec, a dry meal, is an offering of grains, fruit, and vegetables that often precedes a simple ceremony. It takes its name from the absence of blood. Animal sacrifices are often favored at annual feasts that an Angwan or Manbo organizes for their congregation. Species used for sacrifice include chickens, goats, and bulls, with pigs often favored for Petwa Lua. The animal may be washed, dressed in the color of the specific lua, and marked with food or water. Often the animal's throat will be cut and the blood collected in a calabash. Chickens are often killed by the pulling off of their heads. Their limbs may be broken beforehand. In the case of Agua, a lua of the sea, a white sheep may be sailed out to Troy Islets and thrown overboard as a sacrifice. Once killed, the animal may be butchered and organs removed, sometimes cooked, and placed on the altar of Veve. Here it sometimes sites within a kui, a calabash shell bowl. Voodoo is believed that the Loa consume the essence of the food. Food is typically offered when it is cool and is left for a while before humans may eat it. Offerings not consumed by the celebrants are often buried or left at a crossroads. Libations might be poured into the ground. The Dans. Voodoo's nocturnal gatherings are often referred to as the Dans, D-A-N-S, or Dance, D-A-N-C-E, reflecting the prominent role that dancing has in such ceremonies. Their purpose is to invite a Lua to enter the ritual space and possess one of the worshippers, through whom they can communicate with the congregation. The success of this procedure is predicated on mastering the different ritual actions and on getting the aesthetic right to please the Lua. The proceedings can last for the entirety of the night. On arriving, the congregation typically disperse along the perimeter of the peristyle. The ritual often begins with Roman Catholic prayers and hymns. These may be led by the Pret Saban, although not all Onfo have anyone in this role. This is followed by the shaking of the Asan rattle to summon the Lua. Two Haitian Creole songs, the Prie Deo outside prayers, may then be sung, lasting from 45 minutes to an hour. The main Lua are then saluted individually in a specific order. Legba always comes first, as he is believed to open the way for the others. Each Loa may be offered either 3 or 7 songs, which are specific to them. The rites employed to call down the Loa vary depending on the Nanshan in question. During large-scale ceremonies, the Loa are invited to appear through the drawing of veve on the ground using cornmeal. Also used to call down the spirit is a process of drumming, singing, prayers, and dances. Libations and offerings of food are made to the Lua, which include animal sacrifices. The order and protocol for welcoming the Lua is referred to as regelman. A symbol of the religion, the drum is perhaps the most sacred item in voodoo. Voodoo is believed that ritual drums contain an etheric force, the nanam, and a spirit called untu or ontu. Specific ceremonies accompany the construction of a drum so that it is considered suitable for ritual use. In the Bay Manger Tanbu beating of the drum, ritual offerings are given to the drum itself, reflecting its status. When voodooists enter the peristyle, they customarily bow before the drums. Different types of drum are used, sometimes reserved for rituals devoted to specific lua. Patois rites, for instance, involve two types of drum, whereas Rada rituals require three. Ritual drummers are called tambouris, and becoming one requires a lengthy apprenticeship. The drumming style, choice of rhythm, and composition of the orchestra differs depending on which nation of Loa are being invoked. The drum rhythms typically generate a case or a break, which the master drummer will initiate to oppose the main rhythm being played by the rest of the drummers. This is seen as having a destabilizing effect on the dancers and helping to facilitate their possession. The drumming is typically accompanied by singing, usually in Haitian Creole, although sometimes in Fan or Yoruba. These songs are often structured around a call and response, with a soloist singing a line and the chorus responding with either the same line or an abbreviated version. The soloist is the ondjinikon, who maintains the rhythm with a rattle. Lyrically simple and repetitive, these songs are invocations to summon a lua. Dancing also plays a major role in ritual, utilizing the rhythm of the drummers. The dances are simple, lacking complex choreography, and usually involve the dancers moving counterclockwise around the potomaton. Specific dance movements can indicate the lua or their nanshan being summoned. Dances for agua, for instance, imitate swimming motions. Voodooists believe that the lua renew themselves through the vitality of the dancers. Spirit possession. Spirit possession is important, being central to many voodoo rituals. The person being possessed is called the shawal, the horse. Ooh. The act of possession is termed mounting a horse. Voodoo teaches that both male and female Loa can possess either men or women. Although children are often present at these ceremonies, they are rarely possessed as it is considered too dangerous. Some individuals attending the dance will put a certain item, often wax, in their hair or headgear to prevent possession. While the specific drums and songs used are designed to encourage a specific Loa to possess someone, sometimes an unexpected Loa appears and takes possession instead. The possession trance is termed the Kriz Lua. Voodooists believe that the Lua enters the head of the Shawal and displaces their Guaban Anj, making the Shawal tremble and convulse. As their consciousness has been removed from their head during the possession, Voodooists believe that the Shawal will have no memory of the incident. The length of the possession varies, often lasting a few hours but sometimes several days. Sometimes a succession of Lua possess the same individual, one after the other. Possession may end with the Shawal collapsing in a semi-conscious state, being left physically exhausted. Once the Lua possesses an individual, the congregation greeted with a burst of song and dance. The Shawal will typically bow before the officiating priest or priestess and prostrate before the Pato Matan. The Shawal is often escorted into an adjacent room where they are dressed in clothing associated with the possessing Lua. Alternatively, the clothes are brought out and they are dressed in the peristyle itself. These costumes and props help the Shawal take on the appearance of the Lua. Many Onfo have a large wooden phallus used by those possessed by Gidi Lua, for instance. Once the Shawal has been dressed, the congregants kiss the floor before them. The Shawal adopts the behavior of the possessing Lua. Their performance can be very theatrical. Those believing themselves possessed by the serpent Danbala, for instance, often slither on the floor, dart out their tongue, and climb the post of the peristyle. Those possessed by Zaka, Lua of agriculture, will dress as a peasant in a straw hat with a clay pipe and will often speak in a rustic accent. The Shawal will often join in with the dances, eat or drink. Sometimes the Lawa, through the Shawal, will engage in financial transactions with members of the congregation, for instance, by selling them food that has been given as an offering or lending them money. Possession facilitates direct communication between Voodooists and the Lawa. Through the Shawal, the Lawa communicates with their devotees, offering counsel, chastisement, blessings, warnings about the future, and healing. Lawa possession has a healing function, with the possessed individual expected to reveal possible cures to the ailments of those assembled. Clothing that the Shawal touches is regarded as bringing luck. The Lawa may also offer advice to the individual they are possessing. Because the latter is not believed to retain any memory of the events, it is expected that other members of the congregation will pass along the Lua's message. In some instances, practitioners have reported being possessed at other times of ordinary life, such as when someone is in the middle of the market or when they are asleep. Divination. A common form of divination employed by Wanwan and Mambo is to invoke a Lua into a pitcher, where it will then be asked questions. Other forms of divination used by voodooists include the casting of shells, cartomancy, studying leaves, coffee grounds, or cinders in a glass, or looking into a candle flame. A form of divination associated especially with Pechwa Lawa is the use of a jimbo shell, sometimes with a mirror attached to one side and affixed at both ends to string. The string is twirled and the directions of the shell used to interpret the responses of the Lawa. Healing plays an important role in voodoo. A client will approach a manbo or wanguan complaining of illness or misfortune, and the latter will use divination to determine the cause and select a remedy. Manbo and wanguan typically have a wide knowledge of plants and their medicinal uses. When collecting plants, they are expected to show them respect, for instance, by leaving coins in payment for removing leaves. To heal, voodoo specialists often prescribe baths consisting of water infused with various ingredients or produce powders for a specific purpose, such as to attract good luck or aid seduction. Alternatively, they may create a material object infused with spirits or medicines, a wanga, although these can also be devoted to harmful purposes. Manbo and Wanguan often provide talismans called a puen or a point, trave magi or magic work, paquets or a paquets Congo. The latter term highlights the potential influence of the Bakongo Minkisi on these Haitian ritual creations. In Haiti, Wanguan or Manbo may advise their clients to seek assistance from medical professionals, while the latter may also send their patients to see a Wanguan or Manbo. Although in the late 20th century there were concerns that the Haitian reliance on Wanguan and Manbo was contributing to the spread of HIV and AIDS, by the early 21st century, various NGOs and other groups were working on bringing voodoo officiants into the broader campaign against the virus. In Haiti, there are also docte fé, or herb doctors, leaf doctors, who offer herbal remedies for ailments but deal in fewer problems than Wanguan and Mambo. Harming practices. Voodoo teaches that supernatural factors cause or exacerbate many problems. It holds that humans can cause supernatural harm to others, either unintentionally or deliberately, in the latter case, exerting power over a person through possession of hair or nail clippings belonging to them. Voodooists also often believe that supernatural harm can be caused by other entities. The Lugawu is a human, usually female, who transforms into an animal and drains blood from sleeping victims, while members of the Bazango secret society are feared for their reputed ability to transform into dogs, in which form they walk the streets at night. An individual who turns to the Lua to harm others is a choche, or choke, whatever, Choche, or a boko, although this latter term can also refer to a wanwan generally. They are described as someone who sert des dos, meaning serves with both hands. As the good Lua have rejected them as unworthy, Boko are believed to work with Lua Akti, Bot Lua, spirits that will work for anyone who pays for them, or who pays them, and often members of the Petua Nan Shan. According to Haitian popular belief, Boko engage in avwamo expeditions, setting the dead against an individual to cause the latter's sudden illness and death, and utilize baka, malevolent spirits, sometimes in animal form. In Haiti, there is much suspicion and censure towards those suspected of being Boko. The curses of the Boko are believed to be countered by the Wanguan and Mando, who can revert the curse through an exorcism that incorporates invocations of protective lua, massages, and baths. In Haiti, some Wanguan and Manbo have been accused of working with the Boko, arranged for the latter to curse individuals so that they can financially profit from removing these curses. Funerals, the dead, and zombies. Voodoo features complex funerary customs. Following an individual's death, the Desuonin ritual frees the Guobanjan from their body and disconnects them from their tutelary Lua. The corpse is then bathed in a herbal infusion by an individual themed the Benye, who gives the dead person messages to take with them. Awake, the veille follows. The body is then buried in the cemetery, often according to Roman Catholic custom. In northern Haiti, an additional rite takes place at the Wanfo on the day of the funeral, the case canari, breaking of the clay pot. In this, a jar is washed in substances including chlorine, placed within a trench dug into the peristyle floor and smashed. The trench is then refilled. The night after the funeral, the novena takes place at the home of the deceased, involving Roman Catholic prayers. A mass for them is held a year after death, sometimes performed by a prêtre savant. Voodooists fear the dead's ability to harm the living. It is believed that the deceased may, for instance, punish their living relatives if the latter fail to appropriately mourn them. Many voodooists believe that a practitioner's spirit dwells in the land of Jenin, located at the bottom of a lake or river, for a year and a day. A year and a day after death, the Wete Monandlo, extracting the dead from the waters of the abyss, ritual may take place, in which the deceased Gwo Bonange is reclaimed from the realm of the dead and placed into a clay jar or bottle called the Govi. Now ensconced in the world of the living, two Guobananj of this ancestor is deemed capable of assisting its descendants, are guiding them with its wisdom. Practitioners sometimes believe that failing to conduct this ritual can result in misfortune, illness, and death for the family of the deceased. Offerings then given to this spirit of the dead are termed manje mo. The notion of a spirit being encased in a vessel and then used for workings likely derives from Bakongo influences and has similarities with the Bakongo-derived Palo religion from Cuba. Another belief about the dead, that of zombies, is one of the most sensationalized aspects of Haitian religion. Zombies are often regarded as the Guobananj of the recently deceased that have been captured and forced to work for their master. The guobanange may then be kept inside a bottle or other vessel. The practice is often linked to shanpuel or secret societies, which are suspected of murdering the individual they wish to turn into a zombie. To achieve this, they may obtain the bones of a deceased person, especially their skull, sometimes by bribing cemetery workers. The skull will often be baptized, given food, and set a particular task to specialize in, such as healing a specific malady. Those intending to take a guavanange as a zombie may have to borrow or buy them from Baron Samedi. An alternative idea in Haitian lore is that it is the body that is turned into a zombie, in which case a boko has seized an individual's T bonange and left the body as an empty vessel that can be manipulated. The reality of this phenomenon is contested, although the anthropologist Wade Davis argued that this was based on a real practice whereby Bazongo societies used poisons to make certain individuals more pliant. Haitians generally do not fear zombies, but rather fear becoming one themselves. The figure of the zombie has also been interpreted as a metaphor for the enslavement central to Haitian history. Festivals. On the saint's day of the Roman Catholic calendar, Voodooists often hold birthday parties for the Loa associated with the saint whose day it is. These are marked with special altars for the celebrated Loa, as well as the preparation of their preferred food. Devotions to the Gidi are particularly common around the days of the dead, All Saints, 1st of November, and All Souls, the 2nd of November, with celebrations largely taking place in the cemeteries of Port-au-Prince. At this festival, those devoted to the Gidi dress in black and purple, with funeral frock coats, black veils, and top hats, all linking to the Gidi's associations with death. The build-up to Easter sees rah-rah bands, largely consisting of peasants and urban poor, process through the uh, progress through the streets singing and dancing. Each Rara band is considered to be under the patronage of a particular Luwa, holding a contract with them that typically lasts 7 years. Performing Rara is regarded as a service to the Luwa, and some Rara leaders claim that a Luwa instructed them to form their band. And Wangwan will typically be part of the Rara band and will oversee their religious obligations, for instance, performing rituals during their procession or providing members with a binyan protective bath before they perform. They may also attempt to curse or poison rival Rara bands. Pilgrimage is part of Haitian religious culture. In July, Voodooist pilgrims visit Plaine du Nord near Bois Cayman, where, according to legend, the Haitian Revolution began. There, sacrifices are made and pilgrims immerse themselves in the toit or mud pits, like pigs. The pilgrims often mass before the church of Saint Jacques, with Saint Jacques perceived as being the Lua Agua or Ogwa. Another popular pilgrimage site, again typically visited in July, is Sault de Wa, the waterfall, or Sodo, located outside the village of Ville-Bonheur, where the Virgin Mary, or Ezili, allegedly appeared in the 1840s. At the site, pilgrims bathe under waterfalls associated with water spirits like Danbala. Haitian pilgrims commonly wear colored ropes around their head or waist, a tradition that may derive from a Bakongo custom, kanga, to tie, during which sacred objects were bound with rope. Haitians abroad have also established pilgrimage sites, with thousands of Haitians visiting the Church of Our Lady of Mount Carmel in eastern Harlem, New York City, for the feast day of the Virgin, whom the Voodooists in attendance interpret as Izili Danto. History. Before the Revolution, in 1492, Christopher Columbus's edition established a Spanish colony on Hispaniola. A growing European presence decimated the island's indigenous Taino population both through introduced diseases and exploitation of as laborers. The European colonists then turned to imported West African slaves as a new source of labor. Africans first arrived on Hispaniola circa 1512. Most of the enslaved were prisoners of war. Some were probably priests of traditional religions, helping to transport their rights to the Americas. Others were probably Muslim, although Islam exerted little influence on Voodoo, while some probably practiced traditional religions that had already absorbed Roman Catholic iconographic influences. By the late 16th century, French colonists were settling in western Hispaniola. Spain recognized French sovereignty over that part of the island, which became Saint Dominique in a series of treaties signed in 1697. Moving away from its previous subsistence economy in the 18th century, St. Dominic refocused its economy around the mass export of indigo, coffee, sugar, and cocoa to Europe. To work the plantations, the French colonists placed a renewed emphasis on importing enslaved Africans, whereas there were twice as many Africans as Europeans in the colony in 1681. By 1790, there were 11 times as many Africans as Europeans. Ultimately, St. Dominique became the colony with the largest number of slaves on the Caribbean. Roman Catholicism was the official religion of St. Dominic. The Code Noir issued by King Louis the 14th in 1685 forbade the open practice of African religions on the colony. This code compelled slave owners to have their slaves baptized and instructed as Roman Catholics. The fact that the process of enslavement led to these Africans becoming Christian was a key way in which the slave owners sought to morally legitimate their actions. However, many slave owners took little interest in having their slaves to spend time celebrating saints' days rather than laboring, and were also concerned that black congregations could provide scope to foment revolt. Enslavement destroyed the social fabric of African traditional religions, which were typically rooted in ethnic and family membership. Although certain cultural assumptions about the nature of the universe would have been widely shared among the enslaved Africans, they came from diverse linguistic and ethno-cultural backgrounds and had to forge common cultural practices on Hispaniola. Gradually, over the course of the 18th century, Voodoo emerged as a composite of various African ethnic traditions, merging diverse practices into a more cohesive form. African religions had to be practiced secretly, with Roman Catholic iconography and rituals probably used to conceal the true identity of the deities venerated. This resulted in a system of correspondences between African spirits and Roman Catholic saints. Afro-Haitians adopted other aspects of French colonial culture. Voodoo drew influence from European grimoires, commedia performances, and Freemasonry, with Masonic lodges having been established across St. Dominic in the 18th century. Voodoo rituals took place in secret, usually at night. One such rite was described during the 1790s by a white man, Médéric Louis Elie Moreau de Sainte-Marie. Some enslaved Afro-Haitians escaped to form Maroon groups, which often practiced voodoo. The Haitian Revolution and the 19th century. In Haitian lore, voodoo is often presented as having played a vital role in the Haitian Revolution, although scholars debate the extent to which this is true. According to legend, a voodoo ritual took place in Bois Cayman on the 14th of August, 1791. At which the participants swore to overthrow the slave owners before massacring local whites and sparking the revolution. Although a popular tale in Haitian folklore, it has no historical evidence to support it. Moreover, two of the revolution's early leaders, Boukman and Francois Macandal, were reputed to be powerful Wangwans. Amid growing rebellion, the French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte ordered troops into the colony in 1801, but in 1803 the French conceded defeat and the rebel leader Jean-Jacques Dessalines proclaimed Saint Dominique to be a new republic named Haiti. The revolution broke up the large land ownings and created a society of small subsistence farmers. Haitians largely began living in la cours, or extended family compounds, which enabled the preservation of African-derived Creole religions. These la cours often had their own loi racine or root loi, being intertwined with concepts of land and kinship. Many Roman Catholic missionaries had been killed in the revolution, and after its victory, Dessalines declared himself head of the church in Haiti. Protesting these actions, the Roman Catholic Church cut ties with Haiti in 1805. This allowed voodoo to predominate in the country. Many churches left abandoned were adopted for voodoo rites, containing the syncretization between the two systems. At this point, with no new arrivals from Africa, voodoo began to stabilize, transforming from a widely scattered series of local cults into a religion. The Roman Catholic Church re-established its formal presence in Haiti in 1860. Haiti's first three presidents sought to suppress voodoo, using police to break up rituals which they feared as a source of rebellion. In 1847, Faustin Solok became president. He was sympathetic to voodoo and allowed it to be practiced more openly. In the Byzantine affair of 1863, several voodoo practitioners were accused of ritually killing a child before eating it. Historical sources suggest that they may have been tortured prior to confessing to the crime at which they were executed. The affair received much attention. 20th century to the present. The United States occupied Haiti between 1915 and 1934. Although it faced armed resistance from Haitian peasants, many of them voodooists, American occupation encouraged international interest in voodoo, something catered for in the sensationalist writings of Faustin Workis, William Seabrook, and John Crage, as well as in voodoo-themed shows for tourists. The period also saw the growing influence of the Roman Catholic Church, and in 1941, the church-backed Operation Nettoyage, Operation Cleanup, a government campaign to expunge voodoo, during which many Wanfos were destroyed. Violent responses from voodooists led President Elie Lescott to abandon the operation. During the occupation, the indigenous movement developed among Haiti's middle classes, later transmogrifying into the international negritude movement. These encouraged a more positive assessment of voodoo and peasant culture, a trend supported by the appearance of professional ethnological research on the topic from the 1930s onward. Church influence in Haiti was curtailed by Francois Duvalier, the country's president from 1957 to 1971. The country's president, although he restored Catholicism as the state religion, Duvalier was widely perceived as a champion of voodoo, calling it the supreme factor of Haitian unity. He utilized it for his own purposes, encouraging rumors about his own supernatural powers and selecting Wanguans as his chefs de sections, or rural section chiefs. After Duvalier's son and successor, John Claude, was overthrown in 1986, there were attacks on voodooists perceived to have supported the Duvaliers, partly motivated by Protestant anti-voodoo campaigns. Practitioners called this violence the deshukag, or the uprooting. Two groups, the Zantre and Bod Nacional, were formed to defend the rights of voodooists and hold rallies. Haiti's 1987 constitution enshrined freedom of religion, after which President Jean-Bertrand Aristide granted voodoo official recognition in 2003, thus allowing voodooists to officiate at civil ceremonies such as weddings and funerals. The latter half of the 20th century saw the substantial growth of evangelical Protestantism in Haiti, generating tensions with voodooists. These Protestants regard voodoo as satanic and, unlike the Roman Catholic authorities, have generally refused to compromise with its practitioners. The 2010 Haiti earthquake fueled conversion from voodoo to Protestantism, with many Protestants claiming that the earthquake was punishment for the sins of the Haitian population, including their practice of voodoo. Mob attacks on voodooists followed in the wake of the earthquake and again following the 2010 cholera outbreak. The first 3 decades of the 20th century saw growing Haitian migration to eastern Cuba, introducing voodoo to the island. From 1957, many Haitians immigrated to escape Duvalier, taking voodoo with them. In the U.S., voodoo has attracted non-Haitians, especially African Americans and Caribbean migrants, and has syncretized with other religions like Santeria and Spiritism. During the latter half of the 20th century, those seeking to revive New Orleans voodoo initiated practices that brought the religion closer to Haitian voodoo or Santeria than it had been earlier in that century. Demographics. Voodoo is the majority religion of Haiti, for most Haitians practice both voodoo and Roman Catholicism. An often used joke about Haiti holds that the island's population is 85% Roman Catholic, 15% Protestant, and 100% voodoo. Even some of those who reject voodoo acknowledge its close associations with Haitian identity. It is difficult to determine how many Haitians practice voodoo, largely because the country has never had an accurate census and many voodooists will not openly admit they practice the religion. Among the country's middle and upper classes, for instance, many individuals publicly decry voodoo yet privately practice it. Estimates have nevertheless been made. One suggested that 80% of Haitians practice voodoo, while in 1992, Des Mangles put the number of Haitian practitioners at 6 million. Several scholars have suggested that Haitian religion could be seen as a continuum, with voodoo on one end and Roman Catholicism at the other, but with most Haitians operating between the two, going through Roman Catholic rites of passage but turning to voodoo ritual spiritualists in times of crisis. Voodooists learn that the religion by taking part in its rituals, with children learning by observing adults. Voodoo does not focus on proselytizing. According to Brown, it has no pretensions to the universal. It has nevertheless spread beyond Haiti. Amid the revolution, many Haitians fled to Louisiana, where their voodoo contributed to the development of Louisiana voodoo. Since then, voodoo has also spread to other Caribbean countries like the Dominican Republic, Cuba, and Puerto Rico, as well as to Western countries such as France, Canada, and the United States. Major wanfos exist in U.S. cities such as Miami, New York City, Washington, D.C., Boston, and Oakland, California. Reception and legacy. Various scholars describe voodoo as one of the world's most maligned and misunderstood religions. Throughout Haitian history, Christians have often presented voodoo as satanic, while in broader Anglophone and Francophone society, it has been widely associated with sorcery, witchcraft, and black magic. In U.S. popular culture, for instance, Haitian voodoo is usually portrayed as destructive and malevolent. Non-practitioners, oh my stomach. Non-practitioners have often depicted voodoo in literature, theater, and film, in many cases such as the films White Zombie 1932 and London Voodoo 2004. These promote sensationalist views of the religion. The lack of any central voodoo authority has hindered efforts to combat these negative representations. Humanity's relationship with the Lua has been a recurring theme in Haitian art, and the voodoo pantheon was a major topic for the mid 20th century artists of the Haitian Renaissance. In the late 1950s, art collectors began to take an interest in voodoo ritual paraphernalia, and by the 1970s, an established market for this material had emerged. Exhibits of voodoo ritual material have been displayed abroad. The Fowler Museum's exhibit on sacred arts of Haitian voodoo, for instance, traveled the U.S. for 3 years in the 1990s. Voodoo has appeared in Haitian literature and has also influenced Haitian music, as with the Razin Band, Boukman experience. While theater tropes have performed simulated voodoo rituals for audiences outside Haiti, voodoo documentaries focusing on voodoo have appeared, such as Maya Deren's 1985 film Divine Horseman, or Anne Lescott and Lawrence Magloire's 2002 work of Men and Gods, which have in turn encouraged some viewers to take practical interest in the religion. So that's the end of that. We will go over Santeria next and the connections between both and the Masonic order. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Love you guys. Peace.